Hello, today is Friday, November 17th, 2023. In this interview with Lex Fridman, John Mearsheimer discusses the significance of power as the currency of international politics, emphasizing the impact of anarchy and the pursuit of power in shaping state behavior. So let's get started. Overview. The video delves into a wide array of topics, primarily focusing on power dynamics in international relations. John Mearsheimer discusses the significance of power as the currency of international politics, emphasizing the impact of anarchy and the pursuit of power in shaping state behavior. The conversation encompasses realist perspectives, historical events, and geopolitical implications, addressing conflicts such as the Israel-Palestine conflict and the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Mearsheimer also evaluates the influence of the Israel lobby on US policy, and delves into discussions on immigration, interethnic marriage, and career advice. The transcript offers a comprehensive exploration of global power dynamics, conflicts, and societal issues, providing insights into historical events, geopolitical considerations, and personal reflections. Mearsheimer's nuanced analysis and historical context contribute to a thought-provoking discussion on international relations, conflicts, and societal integration. Key insights: power in international politics. Power functions as the fundamental currency within the realm of international relations, with states prioritizing the accumulation of power to secure their survival in a world characterized by anarchy. The primary components of power are a state's population and wealth, which are leveraged to build a nation's strength and influence. Will to power and anarchy. The concept of anarchy in international politics refers to the lack of a supreme authority above states, necessitating their constant struggle for power to ensure survival. While the will to power is often associated with individual psychology, in international politics, the quest for power is shaped by the anarchic structure of the international system rather than by an intrinsic aggressive nature of states. Realism versus liberalism. Realism and liberalism represent two divergent theories in international relations. Realists focus on power dynamics, competition, and the inevitability of conflict, whereas liberals are more optimistic, emphasizing democracy, economic interdependence, and international institutions as pathways to a more peaceful global order. Realist perspectives. Realists view the international system structure as inherently competitive, leading to security dilemmas and the potential for major conflicts. They argue that states are driven to pursue power due to the system's anarchic nature, not because of any specific psychological traits of states or leaders. Offensive realism. Advocates of offensive realism contend that states are proactive in seeking additional power, acting opportunistically to expand their influence when the conditions are favorable and the costs are manageable. This approach focuses on power maximization as a means to ensure state survival within a competitive international landscape. Human nature. Realism. Human nature realists attribute state actions to intrinsic human characteristics and the innate desire for power. This perspective spotlights the role of individual psychology in shaping the behavior of states on the international stage. Hitler and World War II. The strategic decisions made by Nazi Germany, such as the invasion of the Soviet Union, are examined through the lens of offensive realism, taking into account military strategy, power acquisition opportunities, and the overarching structure of the international system. Soviet Union in World War II. The discussion sheds light on the factors that influenced the trajectory of World War II, including the military strategies employed, the resilience of the Soviet forces, and the broader impact of the international system structure on the conflict's dynamics. The complexity of war. War is recognized as a complex phenomenon that encompasses not only structural and strategic factors, but also the human element, such as the motivations and resilience of combatants. Historical perspectives. To comprehend the intricacies of war and state conduct, historical events like the collapse of the Russian army in World War I and Napoleon's invasion of Russia are analyzed, providing insights into the conduct of states across different historical periods. World War II and Soviet resistance. The intense resistance of the Soviet Union during World War II is attributed to the genocidal threat posed by the Germans, who had committed mass atrocities against Soviet citizens and soldiers. The existential threat galvanized Soviet soldiers to fight with exceptional determination. Putin's motives in Ukraine. The widely held belief that Putin intended to conquer all of Ukraine and expand Russian dominance in Eastern Europe is challenged by the impracticality of such an ambition, given the limited military resources at his disposal. Putin's diplomatic engagements suggest that his goals in Ukraine were not solely imperialistic. NATO expansion and Russian concerns. NATO's eastward expansion, particularly into Ukraine, has been a source of significant unease for Russia, stemming from historical tensions and the strategic implications of NATO's proximity. The unfulfilled post-Cold War promises to Russia regarding NATO's expansion have exacerbated Russian discontent and warnings that went unheeded. Geopolitical implications of NATO expansion. The strategic move to incorporate Ukraine into NATO's sphere, along with EU expansion and support for colour revolutions, aim to establish a Western-aligned buffer along Russia's border. Strategic thinkers from the 1990s foresaw the potential for catastrophic outcomes resulting from such an expansion. Putin's mindset and leadership. Putin's political aspirations are not centred on reconstituting the Soviet Union. He has publicly acknowledged the post-Soviet European order and is focused on securing Russia's geopolitical interests in the face of challenges. NATO expansion and Russian vulnerability. Russia's relative vulnerability, especially when compared to the United States, underscores the importance of security concerns and the imperative to prevent NATO's encroachment near Russian borders. Historical context and Russian sensitivities. Historical episodes, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis and previous invasions of Russian territory, inform Russian sensitivities and their deep-seated opposition to NATO's eastward expansion. Minsk agreements and trust issues. The erosion of trust between Russia and the West, particularly regarding the Minsk agreements, has erected formidable obstacles to the establishment of trust and the negotiation of significant agreements. Diplomatic possibilities and human relations. The potential for individual leaders to engage in meaningful dialogue and establish trust is recognized, with an emphasis on the influence of human relationships in international diplomacy. Predictions and hopes for resolution. While predicting a prolonged and potentially devastating conflict in Ukraine, there remains a hope for a peaceful resolution and an openness to being proven wrong in this somber forecast. Keywords in this interview include the following: power in international politics, the concept of power as the fundamental currency in international relations, encompassing a state's population and wealth to build strength and influence. Anarchy refers to the absence of a supreme authority above states, leading to constant power struggles for survival. Realism and liberalism, two contrasting theories in international relations. Realism focuses on power dynamics and conflict inevitability, while liberalism emphasizes democracy, economic interdependence, and international institutions for peace. Offensive realism advocates proactive power-seeking by states to expand influence opportunistically within a competitive international landscape. Human nature realism attributes state actions to intrinsic human characteristics and the innate desire for power. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a political and military alliance of Western countries. Minsk agreements, ceasefire agreements aimed at resolving the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Colour revolutions refers to a series of movements in Eastern Europe and Central Asia advocating for democratic reforms. Cuban Missile Crisis, a 1962 confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union over the placement of nuclear-armed missiles in Cuba. Genocidal, pertaining to the deliberate and systematic extermination of a national, racial, political, or cultural group. Existential threat, a threat to the very existence or survival of a particular group or entity.